The massive Imperial starship hung in Earth's orbit like a dark cloud threatening rain. Its golden hull reflected sunlight, making it impossible for anyone on Earth to miss. The Galactic Empire had finally found humanity's home, and they weren't trying to hide their presence. Admiral James Miller stood on the bridge of the UN Defense Force flagship Defender, watching the Imperial vessel through the main viewport. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his eyes tracked every movement of the alien ship. "They're hailing us again, sir," reported Lieutenant Mark from his communication station. "Same frequency as before." Miller nodded slowly. "Put them through. Let's see what the mighty Empire wants with our primitive world." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the Empire's ambassador. The alien was tall and proud, with metallic-looking skin and eyes that seemed to glow with an inner light. His elaborate uniform sparkled with decorations that probably meant something important in Imperial culture. "This is Ambassador High Lord Vex of the Eternal Galactic Empire," the alien announced, his translator converting his words to perfect English. "Your world has been discovered within our expansion zone. You will submit to Imperial rule or face the consequences." Miller kept his voice steady. "Ambassador, we've studied your empire's history. We know how you treat submitted worlds. Earth respectfully declines your offer and suggests a peaceful diplomatic alternative." The ambassador's expression shifted to what might have been amusement. "You primitive beings don't understand your position. Your technology is centuries behind ours. We detected your primitive nuclear weapons and laughable space vessels. Submit or be destroyed." Miller pressed a small button on his chair's armrest. Suddenly, hundreds of defense satellites declocked around Earth, their advanced weapon systems targeting the Imperial vessel. Deep space sensors activated, revealing Earth's true defensive capabilities. "I don't think you understand, Ambassador," Miller replied calmly. "We kept our advanced technology hidden for a reason. What you saw was just our public face. Would you like to see what we really have?" The ambassador's glowing eyes widened slightly as his ship's sensors reported the new information. But his arrogance quickly returned. "Clever deception, but meaningless. The Empire has conquered thousands of worlds. Your tricks won't save you." "Then let me show you one more trick," Miller said. He nodded to his weapons officer. A single defensive satellite fired a precision beam of energy. It sliced through the Imperial ship's shields like they weren't there, cutting off a small, non-critical piece of the vessel's outer hull. The piece floated away into space, golden surface now dull and lifeless. The ambassador's face showed real shock for the first time. "Impossible. Our shields are the most advanced in the galaxy." "We're the most advanced," Miller corrected. "Humanity has spent its entire history preparing for this moment, Ambassador. We've fought ourselves for millennia, perfecting the art of war in ways your empire never had to. Every time we killed each other, we learned. Every war taught us something new. We've been ready for aliens like you for a very long time." The ambassador's arrogance turned to anger. "You dare threaten the Empire? This insult will not stand. You will learn respect through force." Miller shook his head sadly. "We're not threatening you, Ambassador. We're warning you. Look at your sensor readings again. What you're seeing isn't even a fraction of our true capability. Go back to your empire. Tell them to leave us alone. Because if you force this war, you won't like how it ends." The transmission cut off abruptly as the Imperial ship backed away from Earth. Its engines flared bright blue as it prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed. "They're running, sir," Lieutenant Mark reported. "No," Miller said quietly. "They're going to report back, and they're going to come back with an invasion fleet." He turned to his crew. "Send word to all Earth Defense Forces. Operation Prometheus is now active. We warned them, but they won't listen. They never do." As the Imperial ship vanished into FTL, Miller stared at the stars. Humanity had hoped for peaceful first contact, but they had prepared for war. The Empire was about to learn why Earth's history of constant warfare wasn't a sign of primitiveness. It was the forging of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The real question wasn't whether humanity would win. The question was how much of the Empire would survive the lesson. Captain Robert Stone piloted his small diplomatic vessel through the heart of Imperial space. The sleek black ship, named Last Warning, moved silently past the Empire's planetary defense systems. Their best sensors couldn't detect it. Humanity's stealth technology was generations ahead of anything the Empire had imagined possible. In the ship's hold, Stone carried humanity's final message to the Empire. It wasn't a peace offering. It was a warning, delivered in a way even the most arrogant Imperial officials couldn't ignore. The Imperial Palace on their capital world filled his viewport, a massive structure of gold and crystal that stretched into the clouds. Stone smiled grimly. They were about to learn that impressive architecture didn't win wars. Dropping stealth shield in 3, 2, 1, Stone announced to his small crew, "Let's make an entrance they won't forget." The Last Warning appeared out of nowhere, floating directly in front of the palace's main observation deck. Panic erupted inside as nobles and officials scrambled to understand how a ship had bypassed all their defenses. Before they could react, Stone activated the ship's holographic projectors. The space around the palace filled with a massive three-dimensional display, showing scenes from Earth's history of warfare. The Battle of Thermopylae played out in perfect detail, showing how a smaller force could defeat a mighty empire through strategy and determination. Then came scenes from World War II, nuclear explosions lighting up the sky. Modern combat footage followed, showing how humanity had mastered the art of destruction. Inside the palace's war room, the Empire's highest generals and the Emperor himself watched in stunned silence. Their sensors confirmed these weren't simulations, they were actual historical recordings. Stone's voice boomed through every communication device in the palace. "People of the Empire, I bring you humanity's final warning. What you're seeing is how we fought ourselves. Imagine what we'll do to an outside threat." The holographic display shifted to show Earth's current military capabilities. Quantum weapons that could bypass any shield. Nanoswarms that could devour entire fleets. AI systems that could predict and counter any strategy. "Your ambassador saw a fraction of our power and ran," Stone continued. "He was wise. But your war council chose to ignore his warning. They're preparing an invasion fleet right now. This is your last chance to stop it." The Emperor's personal guard finally managed to establish a direct communication link. The Emperor's face appeared on Stone's view screen, trying to look calm but clearly shaken. "You dare threaten us in our own palace?" The Emperor demanded. "The Empire has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. We cannot be intimidated by barbarians." Stone sighed. They never learned. He pressed a button, and the holographic display showed one final scene, a simulation of what would happen if the Empire attacked Earth. Their mighty fleets reduced to atoms. Their worlds cut off from each other. Their economy collapsed. Their empire shattered. "This isn't a threat, Your Majesty. It's a preview," Stone said quietly. "We don't want war. We don't want your territory or your resources. We just want to be left alone. But if you force this conflict, we will end it. Permanently." He took a small data crystal from his pocket and transmitted it to the palace's computers. "This contains detailed proof of everything I've shown you. Study it carefully. You have 24 hours to recall your invasion fleet. After that, whatever happens will be your responsibility." The Last Warning's stealth field reactivated, and the ship vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. The holographic display faded, leaving the Imperial leadership staring at empty space. Back on the ship, Stone's first officer looked at him questioningly. "Do you think they'll listen this time, sir?" Stone shook his head. "No. Their empire is too old, too set in its ways. They'll convince themselves we were bluffing. They'll attack. And then they'll learn," the officer finished. "Yes," Stone said, plotting a course back to Earth. "They'll learn what humanity is capable of when pushed into a corner. The Empire has ruled through fear for 10,000 years. Time for them to learn what real fear feels like." As the last warning jumped to FTL speed, the Imperial Palace erupted in chaos. The War Council convened an emergency session, determined to prove that no one could threaten the Empire. They were about to make the biggest mistake in Imperial history. The Imperial invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace in waves. 10,000 ships, each carrying enough firepower to level a continent. Their golden hulls blocked out the stars as they approached Earth, a display of force meant to terrify humanity into submission. Commander Lisa Hayes watched them arrive from her command center deep inside Earth's moon. Her expression remained calm as she studied the tactical displays showing the Imperial formation. "Right on schedule," she muttered, "and exactly where we predicted they'd arrive." She opened a channel to all Earth Defense Forces. "All units, execute Operation Thunderbolt. Let's show them how humans fight." The Empire's first volley was impressive. A coordinated barrage of energy weapons that could have vaporized Earth's surface. But the shots never reached their target. They vanished into the quantum shield grid humanity had spent decades preparing. The Imperial Admiral's voice boomed across all frequencies. "Impossible. No shield can stop our primary weapons." "That's your first mistake," Hayes responded calmly. "Thinking you know what's impossible." She pressed a single button on her console. All defense platforms, return fire. Thousands of satellites that had remained hidden behind the quantum shields revealed themselves. But they didn't fire energy weapons or missiles. Instead, they released clouds of what looked like silver dust. The Imperial fleet's sensors didn't even register the dust as a threat. Their second mistake. The nanoswarms activated, each microscopic robot programmed for a specific task. Some burrowed into hull plating, converting metal into more nanobots. Others invaded ship systems, turning the Empire's own technology against them. Within minutes, 50 Imperial ships had gone dark, their crews evacuating in panic as their vessels crumbled into clouds of metallic dust. "Second wave, launch," Hayes ordered. Earth's orbital shipyards, hidden in dimensional pockets, opened. Hundreds of human warships emerged, their designs unlike anything the Empire had seen. They didn't move like normal ships. They flickered in and out of reality, appearing inside the Imperial formation. "All ships, execute Combat Pattern Delta," Hayes commanded. "Show them what we learned from thousands of years of warfare." The human fleet moved like a swarm of angry wasps, striking from impossible angles. Their quantum weapons bypassed Imperial shields completely. Their eye-targeting systems predicted and countered every Imperial maneuver before it happened. The Imperial Admiral's voice came again, less confident now. "What kind of demons are you? No species fights like this." "We're not demons," Hayes replied. "We're humans. We spent our entire history fighting ourselves, preparing for this moment without even knowing it. Every war taught us something new. Every battle made us stronger." The nanoswarms had consumed nearly 200 Imperial ships now. The human fleet had destroyed another 300. The mighty invasion force was being torn apart, and they hadn't managed to cause a single human casualty. "Last chance," Hayes offered. "Retreat now, and we'll let you leave. Stay, and there won't be enough of your fleet left to carry the news home." The Imperial Admiral's response was predictable. The Empire never retreats. All ships concentrate fire on their command center. Hayes sighed. Wrong choice. She activated her final weapon system. Initiate Operation Black Mirror. Dark energy beams lanced out from hidden platforms on Earth's surface. They didn't destroy Imperial ships. They did something worse. Each beam created a localized time dilation field. Ships caught in the beams experienced time at different rates. Some accelerated, some slowed down. The perfectly coordinated Imperial formation dissolved into chaos as ships crashed into each other, their crews unable to compensate for the temporal distortions. "Status report," Hayes called out. "Enemy fleet at 40% strength and falling," her tactical officer reported. "No damage to Earth defense systems. The quantum shields are holding at 98% power." Hayes nodded. This wasn't even close to a real fight. The Empire had relied on overwhelming force for so long, they'd forgotten how to actually wage war. Humanity, forged in the fires of countless conflicts, had never had that luxury. "Send word to all Earth forces," she ordered. "Phase 1 complete. Prepare for Phase 2, the counterattack. It's time to show the Empire what happens when you push humanity too far." The remains of the Imperial fleet retreated in disorder, leaving behind clouds of metallic dust that had once been their proudest warships. They had come expecting an easy victory over a primitive world. They had found something else entirely, the species that would end their empire. The Empire's War Council gathered in their emergency bunker, faces grim as they watched recordings of their failed invasion. Their greatest fleet, destroyed in hours by weapons they couldn't understand. "Deploy the planet killers," the Emperor commanded. "If we cannot conquer Earth, we will make an example of it." Deep in space, massive Imperial ships emerged from hidden bases. Each carried a weapon designed to crack planets apart. They had used these weapons before to crush rebellions. No civilization had ever survived a planet killer attack. General Thomas Walker received the warning from Earth's deep space sensors. He stood on the bridge of the human dreadnought, Vengeance, studying the tactical display. "So they're finally bringing out their big guns," he said to his crew. "Signal all stealth squadrons. Operation Ghost Dance begins now." The planet killers approached Earth from different angles, expecting to overwhelm its defenses. Their commanders were confident. No shield could stop a weapon that manipulated a planet's core. But they never got close enough to fire. Human ships appeared from nowhere, moving in patterns that seemed to defy physics. They had studied the planet killers for years, watching the Empire use them on other worlds. They knew every weakness. "All ships, execute attack pattern Omega," Walker ordered. "Show them why humanity never developed planet killers of our own." The human fleet struck with surgical precision. They didn't target the planet killer weapons. They targeted the crews. Quantum beams phased through hull plating, selectively stunning Imperial personnel. Other weapons disrupted artificial gravity and life support systems. Within minutes, the mighty planet killers were floating dead in space, their crews unconscious or evacuating in panic. "Board those ships," Walker commanded. "Take their super weapons intact. Time to use their own tools against them." The Emperor received the news with disbelief. Not only had their ultimate weapons failed, but they had been captured. And worse was coming. Human ships were appearing throughout Imperial space, striking supply lines and military bases. They didn't try to hold territory. They appeared, destroyed their targets, and vanished before the Empire could respond. "Sir," Walker's intelligence officer reported, "the Empire is pulling forces back to defend their core worlds. They're abandoning their outer territories." Walker nodded. The Empire had never faced an enemy that could strike anywhere at will. Their entire strategy relied on overwhelming force and fear. But they were learning that fear worked both ways. A message arrived from Imperial High Command, a desperate threat. They would use their remaining planet killers on their own captured worlds if humanity didn't withdraw. Walker's response was brief. "Look outside." The Imperial commanders rushed to their windows just in time to see their captured planet killers appear in orbit, now crewed by humans. A message broadcast on all frequencies. "These weapons now target your palace. Shall we demonstrate what they can do to your homeworld?" The Emperor's voice shook as he responded. "You would destroy a planet just to win." "No," Walker replied. "We would never use planet killers. We're not like you. These ships are empty shells. We gutted their weapons as soon as we captured them. We just wanted you to feel what your victims felt, seeing these monsters in their sky." The captured ships self-destructed in carefully controlled explosions, leaving no debris that could harm the planet below. "You see," Walker continued, "that's the difference between us. You build weapons to destroy worlds. We build weapons to defeat armies. You rule through fear. We fight for survival. And that's why you're going to lose this war." More human ships appeared throughout Imperial space, striking with precision and purpose. The Empire had started this war expecting to crush a primitive species. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant, one that had spent its entire history preparing for this kind of fight. As his fleet continued its strikes, Walker sent a final message to Earth Command. Phase 4 complete. The Empire's military structure is crumbling. They're beginning to understand what they've started. But understanding isn't enough. Time to show them what humanity does to empires that threaten our existence. The war was about to enter its final, decisive phase, and the Empire was about to learn why threatening humanity had been the greatest mistake in their 10,000-year history. Dr. William Cooper sat in his quantum lab beneath the Rocky Mountains, his eyes fixed on streams of data flowing across multiple screens. His AI system, nicknamed Oracle, was doing something unprecedented, predicting the Empire's every move before they made it. They're still using the same encryption they've had for 1,000 years, he muttered, watching Imperial communications flow through his quantum decoders. They never expected anyone to break it. The lab's main screen lit up with a new alert. Oracle had detected something interesting. Signs of rebellion within the Empire itself. Conquered species, watching humanity's success, were beginning to rise up. "Send this to command immediately," Cooper ordered, "and get me a direct line to Admiral Miller." On the other side of Imperial space, worlds that had suffered under Empire rule for generations were taking action. They had seen how humanity fought, learned from their tactics. The Empire's unbreakable hold on the galaxy was starting to crack. Admiral Miller's hologram appeared in Cooper's lab. "What have you found, Doctor?" "The Empire's about to face a civil war," Cooper explained, sending the data. "Oracle predicts a 47% chance their entire government will collapse within 2 weeks. But there's more." He pulled up a complex diagram showing Imperial fleet movements. They're gathering their remaining forces for one massive strike. Not at Earth, at their own rebelling worlds. They'd rather destroy their own empire than lose control. Miller's expression hardened. "They still don't understand. Send the data to all fleet commanders. Operation Avalanche begins now." Throughout Imperial space, human ships emerged from stealth. But this time, they weren't attacking. They were delivering weapons and supplies to rebelling worlds, providing them the means to defend themselves. The Empire's response was predictable. They branded the rebels as traitors and launched their attack fleets. But Oracle had predicted every move they would make. "All ships in position," Miller's tactical officer reported. "The Empire's fleets are exactly where Oracle said they'd be." "Activate the quantum net," Miller ordered. Across vast sectors of space, hidden human devices activated. They didn't destroy the Imperial ships. They did something far more devastating. They shut down the Empire's faster-than-light communication network. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Empire's worlds were cut off from each other. In the Imperial Palace, panic set in. Without their quantum communications, they couldn't coordinate their forces. Without coordination, their numerical advantage meant nothing. "Send the signal to all rebel worlds," Cooper told his team. "Show them what we found in the Imperial databases." Throughout the former Empire, people received data packets containing proof of the Empire's lies. Records of genocide, of worlds destroyed, of resources stolen. The Empire had maintained control not just through force, but through careful manipulation of information. That control was now broken. "Oracle predicts total Imperial military collapse in 3 days," Cooper reported, watching the data flow. "Their own people are turning against them. Everything they built was based on lies and fear, and now both are gone." Admiral Miller nodded. "Tell our fleet commanders to hold position. Let the Empire's own subjects tear it down. We'll only intervene if they start using planet killers again." The revolution spread faster than even Oracle had predicted. Imperial governors, seeing the end coming, began surrendering to local resistance forces. Elite Imperial troops, their communications cut off and their supply lines severed, found themselves stranded on hostile worlds. In his lab, Cooper watched it all through Oracle's predictive matrices. "It's fascinating," he said to his team. "The Empire thought their greatest strength was their size, their unity. But that unity was artificial, maintained by force and fear. Once we broke their communication network, they shattered themselves," Miller finished. "Sometimes the biggest empires fall the hardest. Are we ready for the final phase?" Cooper checked Oracle's latest predictions. Yes, the Empire's core worlds are isolated. Their fleet is scattered. Their subject worlds are in rebellion. They'll make one final desperate move to regain control. "And we'll be ready for it," Miller said. "Because unlike them, we know what it means to fight for survival rather than power." The Empire had started this war thinking they were the strongest force in the galaxy. They were about to learn that true strength comes not from conquering others, but from the will to remain free. Admiral Miller stood on the bridge of his flagship Defender, watching the Imperial capital world grow larger in the main viewport. The once mighty heart of the Empire now stood isolated, cut off from its conquered territories. "Status report," he commanded. Oracle's predictions were perfect, sir, his tactical officer responded. 90% of Imperial worlds have declared independence. Their remaining fleet is scattered across 20 sectors, unable to regroup without FTL communications. The Emperor's last message had been brief but clear. Earth would burn, even if he had to destroy his own empire to make it happen. But humanity had been ready for this moment. "Launch the final attack," Miller ordered. "All ships, execute Formation Thunder." The human fleet moved with perfect coordination, their quantum computers predicting and countering every Imperial defense. They had studied the Empire's tactics for years, learning their weaknesses, their habits, their fears. On the Imperial throne world, panic spread through the streets. The people had never seen their mighty empire challenged like this. Their rulers had told them they were invincible, that their technology was supreme. Now they watched as human ships tore through their best defenses like paper. "The palace defense grid is still active," Miller's second-in-command reported. "They've concentrated everything they have left around the Emperor." Miller nodded. "As expected. Signal the Ghost Fleet." Deep within the palace's security perimeter, stealth ships that had been hiding for weeks suddenly appeared. They had slipped through during the chaos of the rebellion, positioning themselves for this moment. The Emperor's personal guard rushed to defend him, but they found themselves fighting an enemy they couldn't understand. Human soldiers moved like shadows, their combat suits making them nearly invisible. Years of fighting in every environment imaginable had taught humanity how to adapt, how to survive. "My lord," the Imperial Guard commander shouted, "we must evacuate. The humans are inside the palace." But there was nowhere to run. Every escape route had been mapped and blocked. Every contingency plan had been predicted and countered. The empire that had ruled through fear for 10,000 years was about to meet its end. Miller's voice echoed through the palace's communication systems. "Your empire is finished. Your fleet is destroyed. Your worlds have abandoned you. Surrender now, and we'll show more mercy than you ever did." The Emperor's response came not in words, but in action. He activated a hidden control panel, preparing to trigger bombs planted throughout the capital city. If he couldn't rule, he would die taking millions with him. But nothing happened. Looking for these, a human voice spoke from the shadows. A team of Special Forces operators emerged, carrying disabled detonators. "We found them weeks ago, just like we found all your other hidden weapons." The Emperor, for the first time in his long life, felt fear. What are you?" "We're human," the team leader replied simply. "We spent our history fighting ourselves, preparing for enemies we didn't even know existed. You thought we were primitive because we fought each other. But those wars taught us everything we needed to know about fighting you." Throughout the palace, Imperial guards laid down their weapons. The mighty empire that had seemed unbeatable just months ago was collapsing in real time. Admiral Miller watched from orbit as human forces secured the capital. "Send word to all fleet commands," he ordered. "The Empire's core is secured. Begin stabilization operations on all liberated worlds." The Empire had ruled through fear and force for 10,000 years. It had fallen to humanity in less than 6 months. In the palace throne room, now under human control, an Imperial historian asked one of the human soldiers, "How did you defeat us so easily? We had more ships, more weapons, more resources." The soldier smiled grimly. "Because you fought to conquer. We fought to survive. You never understood the difference." As news of the Empire's fall spread across the galaxy, former subject worlds began reaching out to Earth. Not in fear, as they had served the Empire, but in hope. Humanity had done what no one thought possible. They had broken the unbreakable. The galaxy would never be the same, and the species that everyone had dismissed as primitive warriors had proven to be the most advanced of all. But the story wasn't over yet. The real challenge would be building something better from the Empire's ashes. 1 month after the Empire's fall, representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered in the former Imperial Palace. The massive throne room, once a symbol of oppression, had been transformed into a meeting hall where every species had an equal voice. Admiral Miller stood at the podium, looking out at the assembled delegates. Former Imperial worlds, independent systems, and even species that had hidden from the Empire for centuries. All were here to help shape the galaxy's future. "The Empire is gone," he began, "but we didn't fight this war just to destroy. We fought to build something better. Earth doesn't want to rule you. We want to help you rule yourselves." A former Imperial governor stood up. "But how can we trust any species with such military power? You defeated the undefeatable." "Because we know the cost of war better than anyone," Miller replied. "We spent our history fighting ourselves. We learned the hard way that power without wisdom leads to destruction." The human delegation presented their proposal: a galactic council where every world would have a voice. No single species would dominate. Military power would be balanced, technology shared, and resources distributed fairly. "But what about your weapons?" another delegate asked. "Your quantum technology, your AI systems." Dr. Cooper stepped forward, carrying a data crystal. "We're sharing everything," he announced. "All our technology, all our knowledge. Because the only way to prevent another empire is to make sure everyone has the power to defend themselves." The assembly erupted in surprised murmurs. No species had ever willingly shared such advanced technology. The Empire had maintained control by keeping their subjects technologically dependent. "There are conditions," Miller continued. "Every world that joins the Council must agree to basic rights for all sentient beings. No slavery, no exploitation, no genocide. Break these rules, and you face the combined response of all Council worlds." Former Imperial worlds that had suffered under Empire rule were the first to agree. They had seen both the worst of tyranny and the best of humanity's resolve. Others followed, drawn by the promise of technology and protection. Captain Stone, who had delivered humanity's warning to the Empire months ago, watched from the sidelines. "They're finally understanding," he said to his crew. "We didn't beat the Empire because we were stronger. We won because we fought for something better than power." The next few days saw the formation of the new Galactic Council. Trade routes were reestablished, this time based on fair exchange rather than exploitation. Former Imperial warships were converted into exploration vessels. The Empire's planet killers were dismantled, their components used to build planetary defense systems. "What about the Emperor?" a delegate asked during the final session. Miller's response surprised many. "He and his high command will face trial before representatives of all the worlds they wronged. But not for revenge, for justice. We're better than they were." As the Council's first session ended, the former Imperial Palace was renamed the Hall of Unity. The Empire's golden symbols were replaced with a new emblem, a rising sun, representing the dawn of a new era. "It won't be easy," Miller told his staff later. "Some will try to take advantage, to build new empires. But now every world has the means to resist, and they have Earth's promise. We'll stand with any people fighting for freedom. Dr. Cooper's Oracle system predicted decades of adjustment ahead, but also unprecedented peace and progress. Species that had been enemies under imperial rule were already forming alliances, sharing cultures, building trust. The Empire spent 10,000 years teaching the galaxy to fear, Cooper observed. We taught them something more powerful, hope. As delegates departed for their homeworlds, they carried with them not just advanced technology, but a new understanding. Humanity, the species that had seemed primitive because of its constant wars, had proven to be the galaxy's best hope for peace. The former imperial capital, now renamed Unity City, blazed with light as ships departed for distant stars. But these weren't warships carrying orders from a throne. They were ambassadors, traders, and explorers, carrying the promise of a better future. The Empire had ruled through fear for 10,000 years. Its replacement would last far longer, built on something stronger: the shared determination of free peoples to remain free. Humanity's first galactic war had ended. Their real mission, helping build a galaxy worthy of all its peoples, was just beginning.